Good evening and welcome to our communication discussion for our online faculty certification program. My name is Kathy Long. I'm the Senior Training Specialist for IVYC110IL. I am the coordinator and primary developer for our online faculty certification program. And I'm also the instructor for your course that you're currently taking. So thank you for joining me this evening. I see we have several people on the line with us. You should be hearing my audio right now. If you're not, please go to the audio panel on your GoToWebinar control panel and do a sound check. Oftentimes, if you're on a wireless network, you might experience some dropout or some lag time with your broadcast or even with your audio. So sometimes it's better to call in using your telephone in a situation like this. Hopefully you can hear me. You will not need a camera or a microphone today. You can ask questions using the question box, which is also located on your GoToWebinar control panel. If you can hear me, I'd like you to go ahead and say hello or good evening in that question panel. The question panel is located on your GoToWebinar control panel. I see that Lynn has found it. Oh, okay, wonderful. Good evening, Michael and Jill and Scott and Lynette and Kevin. It's so good to see that you're here with me. Today, to participate in tonight's communication, our presentation will be about an hour, give or take, just depending on how many questions that you have. If you'd like to use your microphone at any point in time, we have a small group of individuals with us today. So if you would like to use your microphone at any time, please just raise your hand, and I will, as soon as I see that notification, I'll be glad to open up your microphone so you can talk with us directly. It looks like Tiffany has found the question or raise the hand option on the control panel. Tiffany, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your microphone. So if you have something to say, you're welcome to say hello to our group this afternoon. Hi, Tiffany.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
There you are, yes.
Hi.
Oh, hi. I'm going to go ahead and mute your microphone right now, just because when we have a large group of people together, when we have our microphones all opened up, most of us are calling from home or even a coffee shop. So what happens is there's a lot of background noise. So I'm going to go ahead and mute you. Feel free, any one of you who are joining us this evening, to raise your hand at any point in time, and we'll be glad to unmute your microphone so you can ask a question and have a conversation with the rest of the group. Tiffany, thank you for demonstrating how that works. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Kayla, I see that you just popped in. Thank you for saying hello in the question box. I can see you as part of our participants as well. So welcome to Kayla. We have about 7 of us on the line today from our course. So thank you for coming. I know that when we do a synchronous session, it's sometimes difficult for everybody to be online at the same time. One of the tools that we're using today is called GoToWebinar. It's a series of GoTo products. It's something that we do use in the online environment a lot of times for everybody to come together at one time and date to have a conversation, to do a study session, or to just answer questions for our students that we might have. Now, the number one thing I want you to remember about a synchronous session, which is when we're all online at the same time, is that you cannot make a synchronous session a requirement unless that course has been set up as a synchronous course from the very beginning. So let me describe that to you just in a little bit more detail. A synchronous course is when students meet at the same time, at a specific date and time, and usually in the online environment. So in a traditional classroom, a student comes to class every Tuesday, Thursday at 11 o'clock in the morning, whatever it might be, and they meet with their instructor in a face-to-face environment. An asynchronous session kind of is similar, except we're all in our online environment, We're all meeting at one specific time. Students would register for a synchronous session if they wanted to participate in that way. So as an online instructor, if your class is not scheduled to be taught as a synchronous session, and it would actually be built that way in our banner system, students would register for a synchronous session. You as a faculty member would know on your contract that you're teaching a synchronous session, and you would be prepared to use tools like GoToWebinar or even our Blackboard Collaborate tool, just depending on what you're teaching, so you would have the tools that you needed to be able to deliver that content in an appropriate way. As a typical just online instructor, oftentimes we use these synchronous sessions in several different ways. One, if we want to have a guest speaker. So say I'm teaching computer science and my friend Bill Gates is going to come in and be a guest lecturer in my online environment. I would want to schedule that for my students. It would be an optional presentation, although I would hate to think that anyone would want to miss that. In this case, when I do a GoToWebinar and I have a guest lecturer, that might be a case where I want to use my webcam. So today, we're not using webcams. It takes up a lot of bandwidth, and seeing my face isn't necessarily the most important part of what I want to share with you today. I want to share with you a lot of content. I want to talk to you about some of the tools that we use in Blackboard and the importance of communicating with our online students. So in this case, our webcam is not necessarily the primary focus of our presentation. However, if we have a guest speaker and we want to set that up for our students, that would be a wonderful way that we could use that webcam so we could broadcast out who that guest speaker is, and we could pick up on their mannerisms just a little bit better. The other way that I'm going to use my go-to products or my synchronous sessions is if I want to do a study session with my students. Maybe I'm preparing for the midterms, maybe I'm preparing for a final, or I just want to use this as office hours where students can log in at a specific date and time and ask me questions. Any questions so far about a synchronous session and how you might use that in your classroom? Remember, again, you can make comments and questions in the question box, or you can raise your hand and I'll be glad to turn on your microphone. Okay. So today we are using GoToWebinar. We also have a product called GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting doesn't have as many bells and whistles as the GoToWebinar product. GoToMeeting allows everyone to come in with their microphones wide open, which can be problematic if you are working with a lot of students and a lot of individuals, a lot of dogs barking in the background, people ordering a coffee at a coffee store, whatever it might be. The GoToMeeting is usually limited in size by about 25 people. And the GoToWebinar is what I like to use for large audiences. I can have up to, I believe on a GoToWebinar, I can have up to 1,000 people in my GoToWebinar at one time. I use my GoToWebinar tools a lot as a senior training specialist to do things like our Getting Started online webinars for our students, where I can have up to 800 people all online with me at the same time, sharing information with them and that type of thing. So the additional features of GoToWebinar allows me to do polling questions. It allows me to have both a chat box where I can say hello to you and just send out messages. And I also can use this question box where I would allow you guys to ask questions, especially in those large audiences. You know, getting that, having those questions available to them instead of a lot of interruptions, I can have a partner with me answering some of those questions on the back end. Now, no matter what tool you're using when you're doing some type of webinar, it's important to prepare for that. So anytime you prepare for a webinar or GoToMeeting of any kind or a synchronous session, you want to make sure you know who your audience is. So who am I talking to? What is the point? Why am I having this? If it's for a guest lecturer, then I want to make sure that I'm building around that particular individual. I want to make sure that we're introducing him correctly. We want to make sure that he has the he or she has the appropriate technology to be online with us, and we might want to consider, do we want a webcam, do we not want a webcam, what is the primary focus of that presentation. If it's a study session, I want to make sure that I have either my slides or my spreadsheets, whatever content I want to share with them, even if it's a website, that all of that is available and prepared ahead of time. Okay. I try to make it a habit as well, anytime I'm doing any type of synchronous meeting, those first couple slides that I presented to you about you should hear me now, I want to make sure that the audio is being heard by others. So you want to make sure that you're giving them options. Not only are you verbally giving them cues, but you're also visually giving them cues on what they should do if they can't hear you. We also want to make sure that we're telling our audience how they can communicate and ask questions, whether using a microphone that's open to everyone or whether you're using the question box. All right, so we've kind of talked about that first tool, and I wanted to start with the GoToWebinar product since that's what we're using here today. GoToWebinar also allows you to post handouts that can be sent to folks after the presentation, or that they can download themselves right from the GoToWebinar control panel. Okay. Everybody still with me? Give me a thumbs up or a hello or yes, I can hear you. I'm still with you in the question box. All right, thank you so much for giving me some feedback there. Oh, Tiffany has a comment. She says, I love the idea of offering several meetings throughout the semester for extra optional assistance. I could use this for brainstorming session after assigning a paper topic. I love the idea of offering several meetings throughout the semester for extra optional assistance. Yeah, that's exactly right, Tiffany. That's a great idea. You could actually have small groups. You could arrange for students to be able to use this tool as well, so they could work together in an online environment. Remember, one of the things that we really want to do in the online environment is make that connection. And we've talked about student-to-student interaction, instructor-to-student, and student-to-content. So this is a great way that you can actually have instructor-to-student content and also student-to-student content. I love that idea of using it as a brainstorming session to help students come up with some research ideas or for their papers. Great information. Good idea. Okay, so when in the online environment, I get this question asked a lot. Is it a myth that online learning is easier than the traditional classroom? And I hesitate to say that it's easier because I don't think it is. It does offer flexibility, both for a student and for our faculty members. But it is different. It's flexible. You can do it anywhere that there's an internet connection. So if you travel a lot, if you have a full life and it's easy for you to pop online at your convenience, that is wonderful. That's one of the things I like about teaching online. However, it is different in the way we communicate with our students. Excuse me. In a traditional classroom, you may have students who stop up before class, during the break, after the break, and they ask you questions, and you can answer individual questions that way. It's kind of combined to a very specific date and time of the week. In an online environment, we have people logging into the class at all hours of the day and night. They're sending you questions 24/7, and that's why we had to create some of those parameters. So you know the policy is that you'll respond back to students within 36 business hours, or excuse me, just 36 hours, regardless of weekends and holidays. So we've had to make that commitment because there's nothing worse than being alone at midnight. You've got your children in bed, you've worked a full day, you're trying to do an assignment, and your technology fails or you just don't understand. It's a very isolating feeling. And a lot of our students at Ivy Tech are working adults with children, and about 1 in every 3 of our Ivy Tech students take an online class. So that's a huge number. It's a huge majority of our students who are experiencing the online environment. So we really want to make sure that we build that retention, we build that connection with them, and that we're really answering their questions within 36 hours. Okay? Now, many of you immediately contacted me yesterday, for example, letting me know that we had 2 failures in our class. One, that wiki link was just not working, and hopefully you've seen my announcement and we've used that as a teaching moment, and you can learn from my mistakes. But also, I also got some notification that the link to the GoToWebinars was also incorrect, and that's because I copied right over it and I didn't change the link. I didn't break the link and then add the link back again on the text editor, which I've explained to you hopefully in detail enough that you can understand it and follow it in that announcement/email that I sent out to you last night. So what I tried to do immediately, even though I was in a meeting at the time, I tried to immediately send out an email to each one of you who contacted me to let you know I'm in a meeting, I'm working on it. So it wasn't necessarily the fix or the solution, but I wanted you to know immediately that I'm working on it, I hear you, I understand there's a problem, and I'm going to try to give you a time frame for when I can fix that. That was well within our 36 business hours, but can you imagine, as a busy working adult who have, some of you are adjunct faculty who have full-time jobs, you have, or might be a full-time faculty member of Ivy Tech already, and you have children and you have responsibilities to your, to whatever groups that you might be involved in, and sitting there and waiting for me, like this is your time, you have this couple hours to work on this class, and you know your schedule is tight, and just that waiting. So this is hopefully, being in this online course and understanding what an online class feels like, will also give you a great perspective on how a student feels on the other end of all that. So hopefully that is part of your learning experience as well. How we communicate to our students and what we communicate to our students is very, very important. It is the key component to what happens in the online classroom. And I'm talking about not, hi, how are you necessarily. You know, we have announcements. We have the syllabus document. We do weekly lectures. We respond back to email within 36 hours. All of that's really great, but we also have grading feedback that we need to consider. We need to think about what we're saying and how we're saying it and how frequently we're saying it. Okay, so just think about communication is what makes the online environment work. Communication is also teaching. How are you teaching? What are you teaching? If you think about the subject that you're expert in, and you know that there's one particular topic that in every semester that you teach it is really going to be tough. So we'll just say maybe you're a math instructor and fractions give people, going back a little bit more to high school, elementary school, where those fractions, just students struggle with fractions every time they hit that spot in their math scores. As an expert in your field, you know what those topics are. You know what gives people some trouble or difficulty, and those are the things where we want to be concentrating on our supplemental materials. So in a statewide online course, we have a lot of information that is created for you. The foundation is there, but you are the instructor. No one can replace you. I can buy a book, it might have a CD with it or a web link, that's all great and fine, and I am capable of learning that way. But what our students come to Ivy Tech for is you, the instructor, your expertise, how you bring that content to life, how you make that applicable to the real world experience. And your life experiences play into that. So if you go back and read through some of the discussion board posts in your introductions, which were just delightful to read. There's some really interesting characters in our class. I just love all the experience that you folks are bringing to Ivy Tech and to our learning environment. A lot of times I pointed out to you that your perspectives, your life experience is really going to add another rich layer to our online learning environment, and our students are truly going to benefit by your experience and your life options and the things that you've done in your life. So think about that and how you communicate. It's very easy both for students and faculty to procrastinate. So a lot of what we talk about in this communication plan that's due this week, and that communication plan will be used again and again, not only through your first semester of teaching, but we'll also revisit it during our mentoring program, is to really think about what is my time commitment? What tools do I want to use? How much time is it really going to take me to grade my essays? What kind of content are in my online classes? What supplemental materials do I want to create so that I'm really taking advantage of being able to teach in that online environment? So these are kinds of the things that I want you to think about in communication. It's not just an announcement. It's really how we teach our students in the online environment. And it is a little bit different, but it can be very rich and rewarding. I've also had several faculty and even students throughout my career ask me about, do I get to know anybody? What's it like? I can't see my students' facial expressions. But I will tell you, sometimes I get to know my online students far better than I ever did in my traditional classroom. And what it comes down to is people really do share a lot through the written word. You can get a lot of how their writing style, you can get a sense of their humor or their tone, and a lot of times they share a lot of information with you through the written word that they wouldn't necessarily share with you in an open classroom. When we talk about the discussion board specifically, in a traditional classroom, when you have an open discussion in your classroom, you always have students who hold back. They're not comfortable talking in a public forum. They don't want to be embarrassed or say the wrong thing. And then we also have those students who are the talkers, who like to raise their hand for every question. They want to be the one to answer the question, and they like to really facilitate and have that conversation. And we're also limited in a traditional classroom about how in-depth or how long those conversations can go on. In the discussion board, you can really get to know people. Everyone gets a chance to participate. Everyone gets a chance to interact with each other. And I think if you read through just the introductions that we've had so far in our class, you'll really get to know some wonderful things about your cohort group, your peers, and hopefully make a few friendships that you can continue as you teach here online at Ivy Tech Community College, whether it's within your discipline or outside of it. So online learning does not have to be isolated. You can really get to know your students, and even your cohort students can get to know other students just by really working in those groups, working in those discussion boards, and that's a great teaching moment for you as well. Okay, so I get on my rampage there about how important it is to be communicating with students and with your cohort group. Give me some feedback here so far. Is everyone still with me? Do you have any questions so far about what we've discussed, about how important communication is? Thank you, Lynette. And Kayla. All right, Kevin doesn't have any questions yet either. Okay, well, thank you. All right. So we've talked about online communication. We've talked about how it's different and is it easier. Lynette, thank you very much for that reinforcement. She tells me that I'm doing great, and I do appreciate that feedback. All right, so let's talk about how we prepare our students. In our self-paced modules in the online faculty certification program, we kind of walked you through some of the steps, some of the tasks that you must complete when you're teaching online. So first we talked about, some teaching strategies in Module 1 and the expectations. In Module 2, we talked about our statewide templates, our quality matters, and how we try to align what we're teaching with our assessment pieces. And we also talked in Module 3 how to prepare your course. And when we talk about preparing your course, we're talking about updating the syllabus, creating an announcement, adding your instructor information, making sure the calendar dates are correct for that particular term, making sure there's no show withdrawal dates are in that syllabus document. Those are things that we do as an instructor to prepare for course. And the course preparation is how we also prepare our students to be successful online. Another way, too, is how we prepare our students is know what those instructor resources are. A lot of our online courses use third-party content. So if you're teaching something with a Cengage product, there's usually a MindTap product that goes along with that. It's a digital resource. Pearson has a lot of MyLab content. So if you're a math instructor, there's MyLabs as a third-party content. The, let's see, Connect with McGraw-Hill, that's used in communication and some different classes like that. So knowing how those products work and making sure they're set up correctly before the start of the class is one way that you can help prepare students and help communicate that to them. Just as an FYI, on the Click for Help tab in Blackboard, there is a list of those instructor resource contact information. So if you ever have any problems with the third-party content, you can put in a help desk ticket with Ivy Tech, or you can also contact the publisher directly, and that information is located for you in Blackboard on the Click for Help tab. And I'll point that out to you when we actually go into the Blackboard course. Oh, Tiffany just asked a great question or pointed out a great point. I worry that I will end up with many communication tools, too many communication tools. If I'm sick, I'm not sure I can update or edit 6 forms of communication. Tiffany, thank you. That is a great, great, great point. A lot of our statewide online courses already have the tools outlined for you. So what happens typically when I teach this online faculty certification course, faculty fall in love with the wikis and the blogs and they want to try that. That's not necessarily a commonly used tool. Discussion boards are a commonly used tool. You'll find that in almost every online course. You do need to decide if you want to use messages or email, whatever your preference is. So keep that limited. Doing synchronous sessions or using BBIM, that Blackboard Instant Messaging tool for office hours, that's up to you as well. We do encourage you to use one or the other. Typically, Blackboard Instant Messaging is the tool that most faculty use. Here's my recommendation. Understand and know what communication tools are being used in the particular class that you're teaching, so you want to make sure you read those instructor resources. So that's a good place to start. If there's a tool that you really like, that you feel most confident using, that's the tool I'd encourage you to use. Pick 1 or 2 tools and just experiment with those for a semester or 2. You don't want to get too overwhelmed, okay? So I had a lot of people in my mentoring course that really liked using the GoToWebinar tool or GoToMeeting. They really tried to do some midterm study sessions, and some of them even did some weekly sessions. The weekly sessions were not as successful based on partially the time that they were being offered. Remember, we do have working adults, so typically after 6 o'clock in the evening, weekends are usually best to have, or at 12 o'clock noon on a lunch hour, are the best times to have those office hours or those synchronous sessions, okay? So with a little bit of tweaking, the second semester that particular faculty member used it, they really focused on having multiple synchronous sessions during the midterms and finals, just like we tried to do with our GoToWebinar series that we're doing here with this class. I tried to offer a couple times, a lunch hour and then after hours, and several of our cohort group are not going to be able to make that. So I'm going to make a video of the recording available to them so they can still get the information they need. So Tiffany, be selective. Think about what you want to use. In this particular Module 5 communication assignment, we have you reviewing all of the Blackboard communication tools, and you're discussing that with each other in the wikis. Use that information, what you like, what you don't like, when you are creating your communication plan. Just know that's a very fluid document. You're going to tweak that from semester to semester. You might just decide this is a particular tool doesn't work for you at all, or you might think, oh, this is really, really great, or you might need to tweak it a little bit, like I mentioned earlier with a faculty member who just had to adjust her time for her synchronous study session. So a great point, Tiffany. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed. take small chunks and really try one or two tools at a time so you don't overwhelm yourself. Great point. All right, so let's go ahead. I want to show you, we're still talking about preparing our students. And another way to do that is this Getting Started webinars. We do a series at the beginning of every 16 weeks and also at the 8-week semester, a series of student webinars. Comes out of my office, and the Getting Started online webinars are an excellent resource for our students. We go over how they log into class, we go over the syllabus document, what are some of the typical tools that are used in an online environment. We have thousands of students that participate at the beginning of every semester. Typically, you'll find that on the front page of Blackboard. So let me pull that up real quick. And you'll notice right now we're advertising National Distance Learning Week, and there's several lists of activities. But we'll also here on the Blackboard front page banner show usually a registration link to our Getting Started online webinars. After those have passed, over here on the right-hand side of the page, there's a list of training recordings. So here's a Getting Started online. This is great for our students to take and participate in. We also do a time management and study skills for our students, and then also Blackboard Instant Messaging for students. If you are still unsure about BDIM, Blackboard Instant Messaging, Blackboard IM, all those names are interchangeable. This Blackboard Instant Messaging for students actually applies to instructors as well. So if you have 45 minutes to an hour and you want to learn more about Blackboard Instant Messaging, that's a great webinar that you can watch at your convenience. We do typically like to encourage people to sign up and use BBIM. As you know, that's one of the assignments for this week, to download and create BBIM and submit your Blackboard Instant Messaging username for a grade. It is outside of Blackboard, so if Blackboard would have a technology failure, BBIM is actually still available to you. Everyone has to be online at the same time, so even if we are friends on BBIM, if you message me and I'm not online at that particular time, I will never see that message. So just keep that in mind. It is typically an instant messaging tool only. So here are several resources. Again, when you're preparing your students, these webinars are available. There's also handouts available that we use during those webinars. So that's updated quite frequently here in the Ivy Tech News and Update. We also, at the beginning of every semester, have publisher training sessions for our faculty. So if you're new to online learning and you know that your course is going to be using a McGraw-Hill, a Cengage, or Pearson tool, you are welcome to participate. Those webinars are usually 30 to 45 minutes, and it's how to set up that product in your particular course. It's a great place to ask questions. There are resource guides located in the online courses as well, with a statewide library of online courses. Okay. All right, so we've talked about preparing our students. So now let's talk about some communication tools that you may not be familiar with. One of my favorite new tools, and if you've been around for Ivy Tech for a while, you might have attended a Blackboard, What's New on Blackboard webinar with me in the past. But if you haven't, there's this new tool. Sorry, I'm on a laptop and I'm shuffling windows around so I can get to where I need to be, so thank you for your patience. All right, so on Blackboard, there's a series of tabs across the top. Remember, Click for Help is where I told you some of those resources are located on how to contact publishers. But when I click on the Courses tool, the Courses tab, you'll see there's a series of courses modules here, but we also have this Quickly module. And this is the coolest thing since sliced bread, I'm telling you. For those who might have been around Ivy Tech for a long time, we kept hearing faculty ask for a way to post announcements or post content in multiple sections at one time. So a lot of our faculty teach more than one section of Math 123 or whatever topic it might be. So how can I now communicate across multiple sections? The Quickly tool is the answer to that. So I'm going to say these are all pluses, so I can post an announcement, I can send an email, I can post content, I can post a link, I can create an assignment, I can create a calendar event, and I can see what needs grading in all of my courses. So I'm going to click Post Announcement just to give you an example of how this works. You'll see a list of courses that you are currently teaching for that term. So you'll only see the list of courses that you are the teacher of record for the particular term. So you'll see that I'm currently registered for this Getting Started Online. And then I'm also teaching this faculty certification course. So I just highlight the courses that I want to communicate with. And just like I do in the typical Blackboard environment, I give it a subject. I enter in my message. And just like everything in Blackboard, I click Submit. Now you'll notice here in the announcements, I can post this immediately or I can give it a date. I can set a no expiration date. Those are typical tools, typical functions that we have when we're posting a Blackboard message in the individual courses. I just want to remind you that if you send an email announcement and you've post-dated it, so like I wanted this message to go out tomorrow, and I click email announcement, the email announcement goes out right now. It doesn't wait. So anytime you're using the Blackboard announcement tool, just a little bit of trivia for you, and you try to set a date for it in the future, the email automatically goes out if you select send an email announcement. Okay, so that's how the Quickly tool works, and it allows you, again, to communicate across multiple sections. You can send an email, you can post content like an assignment, you can create an assignment, you can also see the grading center. So that's the Quickly tool. The other thing I want to point out to you as far as communication, so a lot of times our students, being in the online environment, need a little extra help. So if we just scroll down here a little bit on the Blackboard homepage, you're going to see a module for tutor.com. Okay, this is a 24/7 online tutoring service that is absolutely free for our students. You can actually build a tutor.com link in your course. And if you are one of the subjects that are available in the online tutoring services, I encourage you to post that link in your course. So let me show you a little about tutor.com. When I click the Connect button, it opens up a menu. And there are two services in tutor.com. We have on-demand tutoring, and we also have a drop-off essay review. Every student starts out with 15 hours of tutoring time. Okay? If they need more, if a student runs out of tutoring hours, they put in a help desk ticket and can request more hours. Okay, so with the on-demand tutoring, the student would come down here to the topic. And I encourage you to explore and see if your class that you'll be teaching is located here. So we have accounting courses, anatomy and physiology, biology, chemistry, business, economics, several English courses, French, history, math, psychology, some OFAD classes, science, Spanish, and sociology. So we have a lot of different subjects. You would select the subject, the student would, that they need assistance with. This is college algebra. When it asks for what library are you in, which is here in the middle of the page, that just is really asking you what's your home campus. So an online student can be from anywhere in the state or really anywhere in the world and in your class. So the student would identify with where they registered for courses at, kind of their home campus. So I would select Central Indiana, enter your question here, and then click Connect Now. And the next available tutor becomes available and will jump online and help the student. We have a 98% approval rating by our students who use the service. Students absolutely love it, faculty love it, and it's really, really an amazing tool. The other tool here on the tutor.com is the drop-off essay review. Even if you don't need online tutoring, but you are, students might be writing a paper for any reason in any one of your courses, they can drop off their essay. They drop off their essay, their written work, their document, whatever it is, and within 24 hours, the tutor.com service will return that document back to the student. It will not talk about if the content is correct or not, but it will talk about grammar, formatting, MLA or APA writing styles, and it'll give feedback to students. I always encourage students who are using the drop-off essay review to make sure that they're using good time management skills. You want to make sure that you have enough time to write the paper, submit it to the drop-off essay review, and then a chance to work on your draft into a final product, and by the deadline that the instructor has put forth. So that's tutor.com. Lots of good information. If you've identified that one of the courses that you're teaching is located here under tutor.com, I encourage you to make that available in your online course. Jill had a question. How are students notified about the available webinars? There's a couple ways. It's located here on the front page of Blackboard, so you'll see it on the Blackboard banner where it currently has the National Distance Learning Week activities posted. It also goes on the Blackboard training and updates, course updates, located over here on the right. And then we also post this to our Facebook page, and our faculty and our online technology coordinators also spread the word to their students about those webinars. So we usually have a pretty good turnout for those. Like I said, I've had up to 800 people online with me at this one time. So it's really a valuable tool, and we're also been tracking some of our YouTube video viewings after the live sessions have been completed. And they seem to get quite a few views. That's a great question, Jill. Thank you for asking that. Any questions about tutor.com? Okay. Let's see what else I had on our list I want to make sure I told you about. Okay. We've talked about BVIM. We've talked about quickly adding a profile picture. This is kind of fun. I'm going to tie this into our discussion boards. So we've talked about discussion boards a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and just go right on into our particular course. And I'm going to go into our discussion board area. Okay. Please ignore this crazy little thing about anonymous posts, because that happens when you copy over a course content. Okay. So when I go into my discussion board forum, you'll notice that there, beside everyone's name, there's this little icon. If I scroll down through here, you'll notice that I have a little picture beside my name. And also comes with my little profile, if I had created one. All right? I highly recommend that you add a picture to your profile. It's one of the reasons, if you think about it, when we're setting up and we're customizing our content, under our instructor information, we ask you to post a picture of yourself and also provide a bio. And it's really, I understand not everybody's comfortable posting their pictures. I hate having my picture taken. I don't think I'm very photogenic. But one thing that it does is it really does build a connection with your students. It makes you realize that you're talking to a real live human being. The best way I can describe this is if you get the telemarketer call at your house and they're like, hey, hi, this is Bob. I want to sell you some trash bags. And you're like, boom, you just hang up the phone or you say no thank you and you're not interested in Bob's trash bags. He's an anonymous person and you feel more comfortable just hanging up on a person that you don't know versus that cute little Girl Scout who knocks on your door with her box of cookies. And here's that cute little face looking up at you, and even if you're like, oh, I've just sworn off cookies, I'm on a diet, how can you resist or shut the door without saying anything into this little girl's face, right? It's the same thing really with the teaching perspective and adding a picture. Until you have a picture, until you make that connection with students, you're kind of like an anonymous telemarketer. You're just this entity out there in cyberspace. So creating that profile picture really does and can make a difference. It makes you real and it builds that connection and it improves retention. So let me show you really quickly how to add your profile picture. It's pretty simple to do. Up here in the top right-hand corner of your Blackboard page, you'll see your name and a pull-down menu. This is called the Global Navigational Toolbar. Okay. When I click the Global Navigational Toolbar, it opens up, and you'll see this series of icons on the left side of the page. You'll see a list of all of your courses, and you'll see some additional spaces, links, tools, and settings. These are actually additional little menus. If I click the picture to the left or the top icon, it opens up a page and it allows me to add my picture. Maybe I say that, I might be very well in the wrong place. Click on Settings and Privacy. And this is where I can add my picture or change my picture. You just click on it, and you can upload a picture or you can drag and drop a picture into your picture box. And once you've done that, you just hit the Submit button, and you now have a profile picture. And that profile picture actually translates down into your discussion board list as well. So just one way that you can customize your course and kind of improve your communication in a roundabout way by giving the students a face to identify with the person they're talking to. I want to say, I think let's take a peek in my last online faculty certification course. And we'll go into that discussion area. When I click on it in here, you'll see that several of those folks added a picture. So Stephen and Jerry and Sheila added their picture. So it's just another way of making that connection. Okay? I highly recommend it. All right, discussion boards. It's very easy to feel like discussion boards are busy work, okay? You're asking the student to respond, to post an original post back to the discussion board, and also respond back to other students. Unfortunately, a lot of our faculty take a hands-off approach with those discussion boards and don't get involved. And it's really a shame because they're missing out on a rich teaching experience. Okay? So what do I recommend? On those introductory discussion boards, I think it's important to make a connection with every single one of those students. So plan a little extra time in week 1 to welcome each one of your students to the class. That little hello, that one little acknowledgement that you see them and you're welcoming them to the class and you're letting them know that you're going to be there to help them through the learning environment really can make a difference in retention. Okay? In addition to that, in an ongoing discussion board where there's questions that are posted and students are supposed to respond back to it, I don't expect you to answer every single post. I don't expect you to respond back to every single student. But what you should be doing is really facilitating a discussion. Okay? If students are getting off track, bring them back in. That's a good point. But in a real-life experience, this is how that application would take place. Okay? Think of it as in a traditional classroom experience. If you pose a question and you have several people who answer the question, it could even be a heated topic. How do you facilitate a live classroom conversation? How do you give it meaning and application in the real world? That is kind of your teaching opportunity, and that can be done through the written word and the discussion boards. So I highly recommend that you read these posts and that you comment and facilitate that discussion. Our fire science program did an excellent job for a long time about posting scenarios, like real-life fires, and how multiple departments work together. And they would pose these questions, and they're teaching their firemen how to use limited resources and to fight hazmat fires and things that are outside of maybe their local fire science program. And it was really a great discussion, not only for them to try to figure out and use some critical thinking skills on how to facilitate a solution for real-life problems, but also these firemen who had experience in that field would be able to give real-life experience. We tried this, but this didn't work, and why? Or this was successful, and this is why. And that's what I think can really benefit you as an instructor to be able to add that real-life teaching experience to those discussion board areas. Okay, so we've talked about why online communication is important. We've talked about how do we prepare our students. We've talked about how we prepare the online course. We've talked about go-to products such as GoToWebinar that we're using this evening, and how we can do synchronous lectures, synchronous guest topics, guest lecturers, or even just study sessions. We've talked about the Quickly tool, how we can post assignments, emails, announcements across multiple sections that we're teaching. It's a time saver, and it prevents you from having to stop and click into multiple different areas. So Quickly can be a time saver and allow you to communicate across multiple sections. We've talked about Blackboard Instant Messaging. That is a tool that's outside of our Blackboard environment. It's used for office hours. I suggest that you turn it on if you're just sitting at your computer, just in case someone might be online with you. I encourage you to talk with other instructors. BDIM automatically populates your courses, so every course that you're teaching, whether that's in an online environment or a traditional or hybrid section, is listed there in BDIM. You can invite students who haven't already registered to register for that. It's a great tool. I try to use it as much as possible. My schedule doesn't always allow it, but it is a great tool to use. There is a webinar located on the front page of Blackboard that was originally designed for students, but it is applicable to our faculty as well. We do have several handouts on how to use Blackboard IM built into Module 5. But if you'd like to take a quick look at that webinar, that's available for you as well. We've talked about the importance of adding a profile picture and how to add a profile picture. I hope you'll be able to play around with that and try it. Tutor.com is a great service, and it's a great way to communicate content to our students. We've talked a little bit about using that announcement tool. I really highly recommend that you use that. at least on a weekly basis on what's coming up, what you're going to be doing, giving grading feedback. Typically, it's 7 days to give feedback and to finish grading projects for our faculty. You want to make sure that you are getting back to them. If you are grading a lot of written work or a lot of profiles, a lot of portfolio type of work, you want to make sure that you're just communicating with your students when those grades are going to be available. Discussion boards, we've just kind of talked about that, how that's a rich learning tool. It's a great communication tool. It's a great way to share and teach content. Please make sure that you're responding back to students within 36 hours. Make sure that you're selecting either email or Blackboard messages. It is your preference. Another thing that I want to show you really quickly that may help you make a decision between which email or Blackboard messages that you want to use is that in the Blackboard environment on that global navigational toolbar out on the top right-hand side of the page, so you remember that's where we changed our profile picture. Okay, it's right here, right-hand corner. When we use the pull-down menu and we go down here to the settings, it's located at the bottom of the page, settings, there is a notification settings. I highly recommend that you take a look and set your preferences. Notification settings, there's multiple ways that you can look at it. You can do individual course settings, and this will send you either an email once a day or every time something changes in the course. It can help you manage what's going on in the class. So you can set an email format, a reminder schedule for courses and notifications. You can do a bulk edit notification settings. There's a lot of things that you can do when you're setting up the course. So if I just go to general settings here, this can help you manage your time and how you communicate and how you receive communication. Okay, so you can have email settings, an email digest, so every day I can set up and see how many people have emailed me, what communications have I missed, so it's kind of like a daily record, or I can have one sent to me every time someone tries to contact me. I have that for both courses and organizations. And you just hit submit once you make your notification settings. I can also tell them how I want to be notified. Typically this comes through your IVTech email. They're working on a way to set this up to go to your messages. It's on their roadmap. It hasn't happened yet. So that's a great tool to know about notifications. Okay, so that's another tool for communication. Go to products quickly, BBIM, adding a profile picture, tutor.com, announcements and discussion boards. We've talked about where to find resources on the Click for Help tab for anything that you might need with their content partners. Your online technology coordinators are also available for you if you ever run into difficulty. You just want to make sure that you are communicating with your instructors. Think about right now your student perspective when you're taking this course. Think about what it means and how quickly you'd like to be responded to, how important that is to you as a working adult on when and how that communication comes back to you. And I think that'll give you a good perspective and understanding of what some of our students go through as well. We're nearing the end of our presentation time today. I really want to thank you for spending the time with me. I hope you found it valuable. I hope you've got some good information moving forward on how to use some of these communication tools. If you have any additional questions, I'll be glad to stay on the line with you for just a few more minutes. But otherwise, thank you very much, and I wish you the very, very best in your future online teaching experiences.